What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Restoration Rundown Podcast, the podcast that's dedicated to you, the restoration business owner. My name is Ben. I'm your host today and every day. And I'm also the owner and CEO of Ironclad Restoration Marketing, where I help restoration business owners get more sales by getting their internet marketing right. Today, I want to record this episode specifically targeting how you can help convert more eyeballs into sales and calls for your restoration business by figuring out what your USP is. Now, if you're listening to this and you don't know what USP stands for, there's probably 100 different versions of USP, whatever. I've heard guns, different H&K makes a USP, but what I'm talking about is your unique selling proposition. What makes you somebody's best choice when it comes to finding a vendor for property damage restoration? What makes you unique? Why should somebody do business with you? And how important that is for converting web traffic into sales, or any type of traffic or any eyeballs on your business into sales. They need to know why you're the best choice. So whether you are dominating page one at Google, you're very active on social media, you need to have that USP there, because the journey and the sales journey really begins once they get to your website or your social media channel. So figuring out what your USP is and figuring out how to properly display it and show it off is super important to being able to get more property damage restoration jobs. Okay. But before you do that, you kind of got to think about a few things, right? It is straightforward, right? What makes you the best? You can talk about yourself all day long. People usually will tune that out. That's why we always talk about getting Google reviews. Google reviews are one way that you can display a USP. It's a type of USP. It's somebody else talking great about your business, and it's going to help other people make their buying decisions. All right. So, figuring out USP, again, is super important. We need to get it nailed down because converting is huge. It's a huge investment in money and time to do digital marketing. And we don't want any of those leads to fall off because you are not properly addressing things like people's fears. You're not properly addressing who your target client is. And that's a big important thing, is you need to understand and see your business through somebody else's eyes and understand what these people are going through psychologically and everything that has to do with the property damage and the type of work that you want to get. So no matter what vein or vertical in property damage restoration you're in, this would apply to roofers, plumbers, anybody. You need to understand who you are trying to get that work from. Okay. So you might be a contents company. Your target client's going to have a little bit different of needs, and they're going to be a little bit more unique than a water damage or a mold or something like that. Or if you're just trying to talk to property managers, or you're trying to get in with some referral stuff from plumbers and roofers and home inspectors, you need to understand what you are looking for, who it is that you're looking for, and then how to determine your USP to properly address what those people may be feeling, their fears and their concerns. And then you'll start converting a little bit more traffic. You're going to start building those relationships a little bit better. So for those of you guys who are watching on YouTube or LinkedIn, I'm going to share my screen with you. Just put a couple of slides together. If you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or any of the streaming services, go check out the YouTube. But a lot of this stuff, again, I'm going to try to keep it as straightforward as possible, so you guys really get what we're trying to get across here for you. So first thing we're going to look at here is, as you know, and if you've been listening to us or you follow the Ironclad Restoration Marketing social media, we are all about our digital omnipresence method. And basically what that boils down to is, we don't want to be hyper focused on any one digital channel. There's so many different channels to get work in that if you concentrate too much on one, you're going to be losing on another. That's super important. So everything needs to be there. You need to be omnipresent, meaning you need to have some sort of foothold in as many digital channels as possible. Now, there's some that are more important than others. There's some foundational and just fundamental channels that you need to be concentrating on. But just like anything else, you kind of want to be everywhere. So to maximize the leads and flows to your restoration business, you need to be omnipresent. You need to be, very active on LinkedIn if you're looking for that B2B stuff. You need to have that Google business profile set up properly. You need to have a website that's built to convert with some of the stuff we're going to talk about today. You need to be doing SEO. You need to have an SEO strategy for that investment in the future to grow that garden. You should be running pay-per-click to be able to get that food and those groceries now, get those leads right now. And you should be active on social media to somewhat. Okay. Be joining the industry associations and everything like that. So we're going to jump right in. So I mentioned before that you need to find out what your market is, right? So your marketing boils down to market, message, and media. So the market is, who is your ideal customer? What do you do? What do you want them to do? Who are you looking for, right? So for the purposes of this, just to keep it simple, you got people with property damage. These people got water pouring out of the roof. They are not in a position where they're going to be tire kicking and looking and vetting out 900 different companies. So you've won that battle. You're on page one. Now you're up on the map pack, snack pack of the maps, where you're up with your top 3 competitors, and they've got to choose between you and the other 2 guys. So you really need to figure out who you're speaking to. All right, depending on what you're going to, you need to address their pain points. You've been in this industry a long time. What are people afraid of, right? And then what's your messaging? How are you going to address those pain points? By displaying what your USP is. All right, your USP. We don't need to overcomplicate this, right? You can, this is in the most basic, simple way, you can have 5-star rating on Google, right? So if you're the top 3 in the map section for somebody that searched out when they have water damage in a certain city, and you're up there in a snack pack, that holy grail of the first 3 positions that are displayed on the first page of Google, and you have better reviews than your competition, there's a good chance they're going to check you out first, right? Or more reviews than your competition. That's important. Also, if you don't have a bunch of reviews and you're not having a lot of reviews, there's a good chance you're probably not going to rank in the top 3 of the maps, unless you're in a very non-competitive area, a very small town somewhere, and somebody did a super specific search for your business. But in general, on the most basic way, you should have that 5-star rating, right? And take it a step further. So you've already done, and we've talked about this before in other episodes, it's tough to get those 5-star ratings. It's tough to get any ratings. So when you get them, you should be displaying them everywhere. That should be your banner. Your biggest achievement as a business is that you are giving 5-star service. That badge that just came up on this slide, they make them. You can make one on Canva. You can go on Google and download one. Just says 5-star rating on Google. If you have a WordPress website, there's some really cool free plugins that'll actually connect to your Google business page and populate your most recent reviews right on your homepage or anywhere that you want to put that widget on your website. And I implore you, when you're looking at your website, you should have that stuff prominently displayed. All right. They didn't accidentally happen upon your website. Most likely they did a Google search. You were in the top rankings of the maps or in the organic section, or you had a pay-per-click going on, which you should be doing all 3. They ended up on your website, right? They vetted you out. They looked at some of your reviews. You need to display that stuff above the fold, which is the first thing people see when they go to your website without having to scroll. And you should have that stuff there. Why not? It's hard enough to get it. I'd be singing out from the roof of a mountain, get up on top of a mountain. So now that you've figured out who your ideal customer is, what your USP is, it could be things like the 5-star review, 24/7 service. You could be accredited through the IICRC or RIA. Those are all things that are going to help convert traffic, right? So once you find out who, homeowner with property damage, is it going to be a property manager you're trying to get, insurance companies you're trying to link up with, plumbers, roofers to give you some referral work. Either way, whoever it is, like we mentioned before, you have to address their fears with your USP, and it more so on your website above the fold. All right. A lot of people out there are scared of getting ripped off, or they're scared of getting overcharged. We don't have to dive into that too much in this industry. Those are 2 very prominent fears that people have. And if you are going after homeowners with property damage, you also have to remember that they're already up to their eyeballs in stress. They already have sometimes catastrophic property damage. They don't want to have to deal with any more BS. They don't want to have somebody come in and leave their house in a worse place than it was before they showed up. So, having their house damaged by faulty workmanship, having to wait around a long time for you to arrive. So that 24/7 emergency service is huge. 1 hour response time, 30-minute response time, if you can make that happen. Those are all really good ways to address those fears. And that's what you want to do with the USP, right? You want to aggregate as many unique points about your business that make you the best choice, and you want to just show it to people. It's simple, right? And what you're doing is you're just addressing these fears, being ripped off or overcharged. You can have something on your website that says, straightforward upfront pricing, which, can be difficult to do until you start ripping everything out. So that's something that you can at least give them the peace of mind. Having their home damaged by faulty workmanship, you address that by saying, hey, we have all of our technicians are licensed and insured. And by the way, here's a Google review that backs that up that says, hey, John Doe came to my home. Their crews were awesome. They did everything they could. They left my house in better than shape than it was when we got here, which is what all of you should be striving to do anyways. The 24/7 emergency service, 1 hour response time addresses the fears of people having to wait, right? So their roof is pouring water into their house. They call you up and now they're waiting and you're telling them, we'll be out there tomorrow sometime. Well, guess what? They're calling your competition that has that hour response time and they're going to show up. The other big one is being inconvenienced trying to coordinate with you. And this would probably go more for the property managers, insurance companies, or plumbers or roofers. Like they can give that work to anybody. And you have to realize that, right? As good as you are, you don't want to make it inconvenient. You want to make everything super easy for everybody. This same principle applies to your website stuff. You don't want to make it hard for somebody to get in touch. You don't want to say you offer 24/7 emergency service and not answer the phone. You don't want to be non-responsive or you're not answering messages and you're not showing up. You need to be gold star, big check. You need to be the best and make it not inconvenient because they need to build, especially when you're dealing with property managers or GCs or something like that. Their whole thing is, let's make this as easy as possible. We want subcontractors that are going to work well together, that are going to make the GC look good or make the property manager look good. They don't want to deal with any of the crap, right? And there's a good chance if you're already doing that, then you're probably not going to be super successful anyways, right? So just I can't drive it home enough. You really need to understand who you're trying to get the work from and then figure out what they might be afraid of and what is going to make you be able to show them that they have nothing to fear and show them what your USP is to address those fears. All right. And so that's your messaging, right? So we talked about your USP. Why should someone choose to do business with you versus your competition? We talked about all these things. Are you 24/7? You offer 24/7 emergency service. Are you certified through the IICRC? Licensed and insured. That's a good one. So there's a lot of basic stuff that you should be including on your website. You need to have this stuff on your website. It's so important for converting those web traffic into sales. What benefits do you offer that's going to resonate with those people? Like I mentioned, same day service, straightforward pricing, satisfaction guaranteed, fully licensed and insured, trustworthy, experienced technicians. Now, we're going to go a little bit outside the box now. All right. Now that we've talked about all that, we've talked about what your USP is, what you need to be doing to show that off on your website. And it should be all over your website. Your website needs to be mobile responsive and all that stuff. But from a branding perspective too. Right. If you walk up to somebody's home, they've called you and you look disheveled, you look like you've been out all night at the bar, turning it up, you smell funny, whatever the case may be, they're probably going to not want to call you back. Right. Same thing. If you drive up in an old piece of junk rundown vehicle that you don't got any logos or branding on it or anything like that, they're going to probably be a little bit skeptical of you. So from a branding perspective, your USP is going to be your forward facing brand, right? So we always talk about your website and we're digital marketing and blah, 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 but your forward facing brand is the first impression people are going to get. So, some of the guys that are just starting out might not be able to afford a full vehicle wrap, but you know what? You can afford a $25 magnet to stick on the side of your car with a phone number or some vinyl lettering. I'm sure somebody in the area that you live can handle that stuff for you for a couple $100s. It's huge. When you pull up to a job, you need to be looking the part, right? So you've sold them on you being trustworthy, experienced, professional, responsive, and all these things. And then you pull up and you've got a rundown vehicle, you might not be dressed appropriately, but those are all things you want to take into consideration. Make sure you have a shirt or two printed up. It's not that much money. Have somebody embroider a few polos, have somebody screen print some t-shirts for your crews. Make sure that you are looking the part. All right. Because people can sniff a fraud. Well, a lot of people can. Some people can't. And that's what gives a lot of the good guys a bad name. But you need to make sure that your forward-facing brand is very professional looking. And that goes back to your website too. 9 times out of 10, if you have a crappy website, your logo sucks, your forward-facing brand is not going to look that good. Nobody's going to remember you. The people that get remembered are the guys that invest in their brand. They invest in their marketing. They invest in their forward-facing look. They invest in their business. They invest in themselves. They're doing continuing education. They're always constantly improving and getting better. The guys that just kind of limp in, they have somebody they know throw up some dumb website so they can check a box. They just buy a logo from Fiverr, and they really neglect their brand. they're one of the 80 something percent of small businesses that fail within the first 2 years. The number one reason that most of these businesses fail is because they neglect their brand. They're never going to develop that USP. They don't understand who their market is. None of that stuff. So you need to understand what your USP is, what your unique selling proposition is. Take a little time. We're wrapping up this episode. Take a little time to figure out what makes you the best choice. And not just, don't simplify it. Don't be like, well, I'm better than these guys. Have been around for 50 years. That doesn't matter to anybody. Okay. What matters to people is that you can know who you're looking for. You can address their fears, and that other people are talking well about you. So get some Google reviews, get those 5-star ratings up on your website, put those badges for the IICRC. If you spent the money and you've invested the time in it, get them up there. Put the 24/7 emergency service badge up there. Put a 1-hour response time. Talk to your teams about the way they're dressed when they show up to a job. Take a look at your vehicles, your van, your truck, whatever you're driving around to do these jobs, and make sure that if you were a homeowner and somebody showed up in that vehicle, that you would be comfortable with them coming into your home and helping them through a very stressful situation. That's it for today. Tune in. We've got some really cool episodes coming on. I got 2 guests that are coming up that you guys are not going to want to miss. We're going to teach you how to position yourself to sell your restoration business, if that's what you want to do, because why not? And then we're going to teach you a little bit of a business and sales coaching coming up here. So I'm really excited to have these guests come on. Until next time, thanks for tuning in.